Well, actually, it was the timestamp, so I guess if it's irrelevant, that it doesn't really matter that much. So
Yeah, I
we
think we're
can see.
live. We're live as well. Which I want to say, like Sam was I wish Sam could be here. He was very critical of the context of the first tweets that came out, and then he doesn't think the second round of tweets got enough attention. So hopefully we could do that justice and try to cover both objectively here. So welcome everyone. What we're gonna do is we're gonna go through. Sliman, actually, you've covered this in depth, so maybe give us an overview of what exactly happened in the last 48 hours, literally right after the space we did. What
Sure.
were the leaks? And then we'll start digging into them.
Sure. I can give that information. So in terms of Sam, he did try and goad me. That's the only reason he said in the message, "You're not talking about this." So that's what forced me actually to make my second thread to cover the issue. In terms of what happened overall, so you have a scenario where we had a leak. One would call that leak a pro Tate leak, essentially. And that leak basically consisted of two things. The first part was a conversation between Aliona and Emma. And the second part of that leak was a conversation between Emma and her mother. Now,
And who are Aliona and Emma?
Yeah, of course. So Aliona is the woman from UK of Moldovan heritage, and the Emma is the woman from the United States. That's the first thing. And why the leak was important was because it basically blew the case wide open in terms of a lot of the things that had been framed in terms of human trafficking and so on and so forth. The leak demonstrated it not to be, and also the leak kind of inferred.
Let's take a step back.
Okay,
yeah,
no
take a step back. Sorry, I was going to ask more questions if you don't mind. So you mentioned Aliona is the girl from Moldova and Emma's the girl from the US. And did they know each other? What's their story? How did they get to know the Tates? What's the background for anyone that doesn't know? I know they're witnesses to the case, to the rape allegations, I think.
Okay, so I'll go through both. So you got basically the UK Moldovan woman, and with her, she basically met the Tates in, it was around January time, January 2022. So I wrote on my Substack, it was November, but it's actually January, February 2022. And then she moved, and so she was a stripper.
And that's Aliona, yeah?
Yeah, that's right. Aliona was a stripper in London, which everybody knows London's a very expensive city. And she wanted to be a basically TikTok star. And so based on that, Andrew Tate met her, and then she moved to Romania with him. She lived in a separate house a kilometer away, most likely it seems with Jasmine and Beatrice. And then what happened was you had a scenario where she claims that there was two accounts of rape. Now, the first account seems like it happened in a hotel room, and it was an orgy between her and her, Andrew Tate, and two other women. The two other women claim it's consensual, as does Andrew Tate, and she claimed after a few weeks after the raid in April that had happened to her. In terms of the second account, she says she doesn't remember when it happened. So those are the two accounts. And in terms of generally...
Just to confirm, Sliman, essentially Aliona, who's Moldovan British, was a stripper in the UK, had an orgy with Andrew Tate with two other girls. She claims it was rape. The other two girls say it was consensual, and Andrew says it was consensual. And those allegations were only made after the arrest?
That's right. 3 weeks after the raid, yeah.
After the first raid or the second raid where he got arrested?
After the first raid.
Okay. After the raid, she mentioned the rape. Okay. All right.
And then there's a lot more backstory with the woman as well, but we'll go into that in detail later. And then in terms of the US woman, she traveled to Romania 6 days before the raid. So her entire experience is 6 days. And these conversations are 6 days. And that's something we're going to get into because the first conversations within a very short period of time.
When did Aliona go to Romania?
It seems like it was 6 days. So you're looking at around about the 5th, 6th, around about that time.
Hold on. Both Emma and Aliona went to Romania 6 days before the raid?
No, Emma did. Aliona went in February time.
February 20. Okay, February last
2022.
Year. Right.
Yeah.
So about 11 months.
Sorry, and how do you know that the American girl, Bear, I guess is her name?
That's right.
Is that her name? Yeah. How do we know that she was only involved for 6 days before the raid?
Oh, there's a significant amount of leaks from the court documents that say that. So there's documents that have been leaked from the court, which is a 9-page judicial document, as well as a 20-page judicial document, which again it says it in there.
Okay, so it states that. Okay.
Yeah.
But that means that the arrest was not based on the original arrest for the Tate brothers was not based on these two allegations. These came forward essentially after the fact.
No. So basically, So what happened was you had Aliona in Romania in February, and then you had Emma, who came to Romania around 5 or 6 days before the raid. And then, according to this transcript, 1 day after she arrives, they call the U.S. Embassy and claim trafficking. Or even it could be on the same day, because I don't know the exact timeline when she.
1 day after Emma arrives, correct?
Yeah, it's either 1 day or on the same day that she arrives, according to the court documents. And then they claim trafficking. And then these conversations are throughout these 4 or 5 days. And then on April the 11th, late in the night, April the 12th, is when the raid happens. So it's based on these women's report.
Are you talking about the first raid or the second raid where they got arrested?
The very first raid.
Okay. So it's all about the first raid.
Yeah.
Okay. So just wanna take. So we have two girls, Aliona and Emma, and we're gonna dig to their conversation. Now Emma refers. You said Bear. Bear is her last name or nickname or what? I'm guessing nickname.
It looks like it's a handle.
Okay. And Aliona. And then what we're going to go through now, is there anything else to add context for these two girls, or that's pretty much it?
I mean, that's it. I mean, after the raid happened on April the 12th, as everybody knows from who's following me, 3 weeks later, they go to the French Riviera and a very expensive holiday. And again, one can only
those two girls go to French Riviera on an expensive holiday?
Together. Which is a very expensive holiday. And from that, one can surmise either they were making a lot of money and can afford it, or someone paid them for it.
Okay, which is this one's speculative, but it's worth noting. Okay.
Well,
all right. So
and I think one thing that's worth also noting is that, I mean, the case was billed far in advance of that raid. So it wasn't, you can surmise that there was more to the case than just those allegations.
No, not the April raid. That's so basically, I was talking about the very first raid. So that only started because the US woman called his mother, called the U.S. Embassy, and then they got involved. So this is at the April, and then they take they take Andrew Tate and Tristan Tate in. They question them for 24 hours, and then they release them, and then they continue the investigation for 9 months, and then only in December do they once again arrest them, and now they're in remand or prevention.
Right, but not necessarily based on those allegations. So those could
it is based on those allegations.
No, so I would say the second arrest is not based on those allegations. There's a lot of deeper investigation that includes a lot of claims, a lot of more witnesses. The first arrest, Slayman, correct? The first raid and arrest is based on these allegations. Fair point to make?
That's right.
Okay. Does it make sense, Catherine?
I would say the instigating factor was the US woman.
Okay. All right. So the US woman is the instigator because was it her family or her boyfriend that called Dicot?
Well, that was the claim from the anti-Tate side, and people like Syrian Girls claim that, but now we know that was inaccurate and it wasn't true. It was actually, according to these leaked documents, it was her mother that we're going to go through today.
Okay. All right. Let's open up the leaked conversation. And Slayman, you've got it covered pretty well on your thread, but we're going to go through it and discuss it here, and try to kind of balance it out objectively. KK, you'll open up the thread, please. The first one. The Censored Men one. So Censored Men, shout out to them being the first account to leak the three. So if you can open up the image, that'll be great. The first image, KK. Cool. All right, so let's read out the first image. Let me see if it's glitchy. All right, it's good enough. So here we have Aliona talking to Bear. I'll read out what they said. So Aliona, you're a good actress? True. And then Bear's like, I practice. Aliona, perfecto. Question mark, question mark. Just play it cool. Bear's like, got it. Aliona's like, yeah, like you don't know anything. Play dumb. Bear's like, I'm going to pull some tears out. And then Aliona responds with question marks. Bear, which is again the British Moldovan girl. No,
UK.
Bear is American. Bear. And play dumb. Good advice. Thank you, babe. About the pulling out some tears. So that was 2 days before the first raid, which kind of shows in this case. That's why everyone got excited that it's blown the case open, wide open, which is not an exaggeration in my, but definitely kind of dismisses some of the allegations. Let's continue before we discuss it a bit further.
Shall we do that bit? Because what it is you've got each bit, which is a separate day, you see. So
Okay, can you go back to it, please? Keep it there. Don't change it. We barely said. Okay. All right. So this is. So we've got here, all of it is on the 4th of October or 10th of April, correct?
that's right.
Okay. So in this case, what I see, I don't know what you think, Catherine, but I see Aliona and Emma essentially planning to act, playing dumb, pulling some tears, just kind of showing pain, remorse, showing themselves as victims. That's how I see it. What do you think, Catherine?
Yeah, so my initial response with this was, I think probably similar to what Suleiman's response would have been. And yeah, like it's staged and they are sort of plotting against them and they're trying to, the fake tears, all that kind of stuff. As I sort of reflected on this more, there's a few thoughts that sort of materialize more. So one, we're seeing this thread incredibly out of context. We don't know the entire conversation. We don't know the entire context of that. We don't know if it's, people have ways of communicating. Sometimes people joke in the middle of a difficult conversation. Now with the tears, they could even be saying like they're staging these tears because they want to convince somebody of something, right? It's manipulative, but it doesn't mean that they aren't harmed either. So that doesn't necessarily dismiss that out of hand just because someone is lying in one moment or is, it doesn't help their credibility, I will say, for sure. But we are also, again, we're not seeing this in context. And I do challenge the fact that all of these snippets, including that one, they're snippets. They're, for some reason, they're presented as snippets. So whoever shared it felt that it was in the best interest to present those as snippets. So I'd love to see the context. So it's hard to judge those in that context. So I understand that they do come across somewhat incriminating, but they're not, like, without that proper context, I think it's hard to tell.
Slayman, I have a question for you. I have a quick question for you, and I'll let you give your thoughts as well. Would it be fair to assume that this initial discussion 2 days before the first raid proves for a fact that they wanted to over-exaggerate the pain that they went through? Okay, so they over-exaggerate. KK, I can't see the thread anymore. If you can show us the thread again, please, that would be great. They wanted to over-exaggerate the pain they went through. They wanted to exaggerate their reaction, but it does not immediately mean that everything they're saying is untrue. At least just this section. It just means that they're a bit malicious in the background and trying to, instead of just being authentic victims, they could be victims, but with an agenda of victims, but trying to overreact to make a point. What do you think?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's what the prosecutor will argue, because they've got to give a defense for this kind of controversial and almost exposing text message. I agree, it is a snippet, and even in the long one that's been released today, because the long ones that's been released has a lot of this in context, but in this one, it's very, very damning. Like, this is, I mean, what you're basically saying is it is manipulation, but let's hope that they did go through it, and this is just them exaggerating it. Again, there's no evidence of that, but this is the best case scenario for them. But even in that scenario, it's manipulation.
Yeah.
And in the other scenario, it's full on manipulation where they've decided that they are gonna lie.
Talk about the other scenario. Oh, okay, the other scenario of this snippet, you mean?
Yeah. The other scenario is, so that's the first scenario. They are manipulative, but they're doing it to try and make themselves feel like victims because they are victims. But in the other scenario, they're manipulative to the sense of they were just attempting to destroy the Tates, and they conducted or created this scenario where they're proud of each other, that, look, you're a great actress, well done, we're gonna cry, we're gonna play dumb. So and so you got a scenario where it's completely like they have got together to frame the Tates. Now, for that is hugely problematic. And I would say, looking at this, if contextually it's right. If it was the UK, the CPS would have dropped the case.
So one thing is, I don't think, first of all, not hoping that they're victims, but second of all, I think there's this idea that one must be this perfect victim, right? And maybe they're not perfect victims. Maybe they're stronger than that, but they're seeing the danger that they might be in and other girls are in. And as we see in later posts and later chats, they say that other girls are brainwashed, that there is a danger. So they acknowledge that. So perhaps their intent is to get these people, and it seems to be again from later posts, because they see them as evil, as presenting danger, and for them, they need to present the face of a more perfect victim, quote unquote, in order to get them. Because if they come into the police station and they just seem strong, untouched, unmoved, it doesn't help their story, right? Not saying that that's a good thing necessarily to manipulate, which I'm not a big proponent of. And by the way, I will say that if there is like actual lying going on, I mean, I'm a big believer in justice, and if somebody is indeed actually lying about things that happen, it's a horrible thing. But I will say that is also a lens that you can look through.
Yeah, yeah. So I think Sulaiman, you summarized it well. You kind of summarized your point and Catherine's point, where it could be just them making up a story and maliciously lying, or it could be them wanting to express something that did happen, a true story, but they wanted to really make sure that they are heard, and they thought over exaggerating or manipulating their emotions is a way to do it. I think it's a good.
I think that's a fair summary, but for me, it's very simple. When you have a scenario where you've got this level of manipulation going on, because in both scenarios there's manipulation going on, that's the reason why the other side, and that's the reason why you've got a scenario where that has to be taken and that should be considered. Because the alternative to that is you want to reduce the evidentiary barrier or threshold for these human trafficking allegations. Generally, I'm talking generally now. You want to reduce the evidentiary threshold for rape allegations as well as human trafficking allegations. And if you do that, that's a huge problem for society. And so that's the reason we have an evidentiary threshold where it's beyond reasonable doubt. And something like this is completely damaging because it's manipulation in both sides.
These are very serious allegations, and I think something like this really should be taken seriously. When there's such serious allegations, you need strong evidence, and you know, correspondences like this and claims that are not backed by evidence. Even without this conversation, in my opinion, is enough. And this conversation just kind of makes it even more important to get some sort of evidence to counter this. So I think, in my opinion, like after seeing that initial segment, I'm going to read the second one now. I would need a lot more to be like, all right, they're guilty with that particular allegation. But let's continue. One day before the first raid. So Bear, which is Emma, can't even. And then Aliona's like, we are so good though. We need a fucking Oscar. Emma's like, let's go. Let's just go play it cool. Aliona, let's just go play it cool and change my name. So it will not start with, what does she say? I can't see, there's an arrow thing there.
It will not start with A because her name's Aliona.
With A. So it will not start with A. Lol, got it. Aliona, yeah, I told you to be like saying a nice message and that we are hurt or shit like that and that we do love them. Just don't like the situation. Okay, this is an important one. I told you to be like saying a nice message and that we are hurt or shit like that and that we do love them, but we just don't like the situation. It's actually what they want to do is they want to portray an image that they love the Tates, but they don't like the situation they're in, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so they will not think, this is Aliona speaking, so they will not think we are really against them, you know? Okay, so they're trying to, essentially they're just planning to make sure that their story adds up. Instead of just being honest, they're planning to create a certain sentiment. Bear is like, Emma's like, yeah, that's smart. Aliona, play the victim. Whew, that's a strong quote. Play the victim. I mean, we are. Okay, this is an important one there. She says, play the victim. I mean, we are. But like, yeah, act like we are still in love and stuff. Emma's like, ha ha ha. I mean, we are. Aliona's like, wait.
No. So she's like, question mark. I mean, we are. Like, are we victims? Like, she's not sure.
I mean, we are. No, does she mean we are in love with them, not victims?
No, I mean,
Wait,
like,
what?
I mean, we are victims. So she's like, not even sure she's a victim. She's like, oh, we are victims, aren't we?
Okay, let me. This is an important one. So this is the most important segment for me is the following. I'll read it out again. Alyona and Emma saying the following. Alyona, play the victim. I mean, we are, but like, yeah, act like we still love them and stuff. Oh yeah, true. And then Emma's like, haha. I mean, we are. Yeah. So I think she means victimsy. And then Alyona's like, wait. And then Emma's like, what? And then nothing. This is like, wait, what? It's like they're showing suspense. What happens after that? Yeah, this is a bit more incriminating here. Like this allows you to question that they're even victims. It's a tough one to really defend. What do you think, Catherine?
So there's a few things going on here. So on the one hand, I do think that they think of themselves as victims. I think some of the phrasing is, I don't think we can really draw a conclusion is what they mean. I think it's confusing enough in these texts that I can't draw personally a conclusion as to what they mean. I think in terms of them being sort of, and this is to Suleiman's earlier point as well, and them talking about the Oscars, I mean, or, you know, Netflix or whatever, it's very, I mean, I think they're very immature, and they're very like, and they are dishonest, I mean, for sure, because they do realize they need to have a narrative they want to portray to sell their story. I don't think that's the right approach to take, but it, like, to my earlier point, I don't think it means that they weren't in danger or at all, or weren't victimized, all these things. But I do think that these conversations are worth taking into consideration in terms of due process and everything. It does cast some doubt as to their character and any future allegations. So I think that's a very, very fair point to make. But as a very telling point is, when she says, I mean, we are, make us look like victims. And then she says, we are, right? So they do see themselves that way, at least from these chats. So I think it actually confirms that point.
So I'll just answer that. So in terms of what you said, I totally agree with everything you said up until the end point, and that is they are dishonest. It does affect their credibility significantly. And again, this is the reason why this wouldn't go further in the UK, because the CPS would just think this is too damaging. In terms of the last point, and this is just based on again, this is my interpretation, and I have been researching this case a lot. I've got a lot of sources and a lot of things going to be coming out, so there is basis for my thoughts. But I accept that you guys don't have the material that I have right now. But in my opinion, what's happened is the US woman, Emma, the bear, she's gone to Romania, and she's almost convinced Alyona that she is a victim. And so that's where this is stemmed from. So you have a scenario where this woman comes to Romania and within a day convinces Alyona that she's a victim. And so you can see where Alyona's saying, oh, but I am, so we need to play the victim. But we are victims, aren't we? She's asking for approval from Emma. And Emma's like, what was it again? Emma's like, I mean, we are. So again, she's not sure, but she's convinced her. So I think it's a scenario where, and there's going to be a lot more things coming out about this, but I think there's a scenario where basically they don't even know if they're victims. They don't even know what a victim is. And either one of them or both of them are trying to convince each other, which that last bit doesn't speak to dishonesty. Maybe it speaks to confusion or not knowing what's going on. So that's my take on that. But I do think overall it is very dishonest, and it would go nowhere if it was the West, because the CPS would never take this forward.
Right. So I think what you're saying, so like you said, I don't have this, the additional context that you do, but in terms of convincing themselves, I mean, maybe I don't think we have the full context, which makes it a bit hard, because there could be information missing there, previous conversations they had in person, like a lot of stuff that we're just not aware of. But I think it also speaks to a much broader, bigger theme of sort of people understanding them, power dynamics, and people understanding themselves as victims and consent, and people, women, whatever, they have a lot of confusions over these things, and sometimes it's wrong or sometimes right. And I'm not in the camp of like, you can just accuse someone later down the road because you've changed your mind, though people do go back and sometimes have a different conception of like of a relationship, or maybe they have been sort of taken advantage of, or been mistreated or manipulated or groomed, right? But when we're talking legally, that's a dangerous slope to go on. Yeah, which are distinction.
And that's why it's not just about this case. So basically, because this case is has a wider context to reality and society, and anytime you got a scenario where it's rape allegations, human trafficking, accusing men, not believing women, whatever it may be, you have to understand contextually that's important. And that's why I said early on, you can't have a scenario where you want to reduce the evidentiary barrier, because if threshold, and because if you do, that is going to be a very, very scary society.
Going back to the point, I want to move on, but just one last point. So the main thing we're highlighting here is Emma. So the following, Alyona saying, play the victim. I mean, we are, but like, yeah, act like we still love them and stuff. And then Emma's like, haha, I mean, we are. So you have Emma saying, I mean, we are, regarding being victims. And then Alyona says, I mean, we are. So both of them essentially admit that they're victims here. But what you're saying,
no, they don't. They've got a question mark at the end. So Emma says, I mean, we are.
No, Emma, like, Alyona, I mean, hold on. Alyona doesn't have a question mark. I mean, we are, but so she makes a statement that she's a victim.
Yeah, she does. So she says, play the victim. I know we are. Sorry, she does say that, and she's obviously seeking approval from Emma, because you can see that Emma's response, and in her response,
I don't think she's seeking approval. I mean, we are, but like, yeah, act like we love them and stuff.
So she says, play the victim. I mean, we are, but like, yeah, act like we love them and stuff. And then Bear says, ha ha ha, like laughing, and then she says, question mark. I mean, we are, question mark. So question mark is she's questioning it.
Yeah. So either she's questioning it or saying, I mean, we are, like, why the like. Yeah, this is the tricky one. So Emma's saying, I mean, we are.
You wouldn't put a question mark.
This is Emma's one. So you got Alyona kind of confirming she's a victim, and Emma kind of maybe questioning it. So it makes it tricky. But I just want to say, like, it's not, at least from what we've seen so far.
But even before that, you have to remember, they're like, we need an Oscar, like, for our performance. So all of this, like, we're looking at one sentence.
Yeah, we need it. Hold on. Yeah. So when they refer to that, I need an Oscar. That's before the raid. So they need an Oscar for them pretending to be victims.
Yeah.
Okay, fuck. That's just so many mixed messages, but definitely significantly leaning on the manipulation. Let me read the last one after the first raid. It's gonna be interesting.
Yeah.
So you got Emma says here, tomorrow we should wear makeup and sunglasses so nobody really notices what we look like or who we are. Alyona's like, yeah, I guess, lol. Emma's like, we are writing a movie ASAP. Alyona's like, yep. So here they want to. Why would they want to?
That continues on the next page, Mario. For another.
Okay. Let me go to the next page, please, KK. All right, so let me see here. All right, so for sure, we have to about doing a movie. Emma's like, I'm dying inside. Usually that means I'm laughing like crazy, yeah? Or I'm hurt like crazy. Which one? I don't know.
It could be either, but yeah.
I mean, they're talking about it from a context of getting a movie deal.
Yeah, exactly. Alyona's like, let's email Netflix ASAP. Emma's like, Hulu, Amazon Prime.
What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, bro, like, this sounds pretty shit. Go back one page, KK. Let me read the first part again. This doesn't look good. Only the first one. Okay, the first sentence. Tomorrow we should wear makeup and sunglasses so nobody really notices what we look like, who we are.
That's fair enough.
Okay, so that one really kind of shows that they want to escape, and they can't escape if people know who they are. So that's probably
after the first raid, so it just means that they don't want people to know who they are, which is fair enough. That's a fair response.
Yeah, is it? Yeah, they don't want people within the compound to know who they are. Correct.
I thought it says after the first raid, so they've left the compound by that point. So this message is after the raid. So now,
but after the raid, so exactly after the raid, did everyone leave the compound?
Yeah.
Okay, so that means they're out of. One of the points being made was, they wanted to wear this makeup and sunglasses. It means they're being kept under their will unless they move to a new building with Andrew Tate's team, and they're trying to escape, but it doesn't look like it.
No. So what happened with them was they weren't in Tate's house, so they were 1 kilometer away, and in that house that they were living, which is a kilometer away, that house was also raided, and in that house when they were raided, they were actually taken in by Dicot immediately. So if this is after the raid, they're either in police custody or about to be questioned, and they're talking about what's going to happen after that.
Makes sense. All right, Catherine, anything to add on this one? It's just not much in there. It
No.
doesn't look good. It doesn't look horrible, but doesn't look good.
It looks
pretty
horrendous.
bad.
It doesn't look horrible. Like literally, that's like.
No,
Oh,
I mean,
yeah,
I'll
like-
rephrase what I mean.
like
It doesn't look horrible. It doesn't look horrible. I'll
You're a
rephrase it.
victim of human trafficking. Like apparently, you've gone through all of this ordeal, and the first thing you're thinking about is like having a
Yeah,
movie
it looks
deal with
bad.
Netflix,
It looks
Hulu.
bad. For me, it looks horrible. What I mean by what I define as horrible is like them saying like, I can't believe like something like I can't believe they all thought we were victims. That for me is horrible. That one's like, shut. This one makes it look. This one because they could. I'll tell you why. Because they could. Again, I think it's bad. Like I'm not defending in any way. There's nothing to defend there like the others. There's two ways of looking at it. What I'm saying here is that it could be just that particular one. It could be them. It just shows they're disingenuous. So just want to be clear on that. But it also shows that hey, they're finding some positive out of it. Like I was a victim of all this. I've been raped and all this. Let's get a movie deal out of it. It's a great story.
No.
You can attack them for that.
Look, I don't know. It could be dark humor. It could be that they're just trashy human beings. Like, I don't know. It could be either one.
For me, definitely leaning on the trashy side. Like, if you put all this into context, at least what we've seen here, I can't wait to see the second part. If you put this all into context, the first section is them planning on how to act and pretend to be victims. The second part is again planning further about how to, how they deserve an Oscar. And about them being victims and how to make it look, how to come up with a good story, changing their name, etc., what to do afterwards, and then the third one about them making a movie. So that's how I see it, and definitely kind of puts into question any allegations these girls make. Yeah. Let's go through the second one. If you can go through, no, back to the first one, KK, first one again, the second page, please. Yeah. All right, now this is a discussion between Emma and her family. Let's see. All right, Bear is Emma. So you can all zoom in and read with us. Look, I know you can't believe I can handle this, but I can. I'm not concerned. Tristan doesn't really care if I leave. Going because we've made the brothers believe we are in love. They think we will run back. All right, Slimane, like, how can I play devil's advocate on this one? She essentially just said to her family.
Tell me how this. I'd love to know how this disproves. For me, this just disproves trafficking completely. Because trafficking
disproves their allegations of trafficking. To be clear.
That's right. That's what I mean. Yeah, of course. Yeah. But they're the two. So remember, we've only got allegedly 4 to 6 victims. 2 already said we're not. These 2 are the whole show basically, and these 2 are basically. Because part of trafficking is that you're basically kept under control and you don't have freedom of movement. She's quite clearly saying she has freedom of movement. For me, this just completely destroys trafficking. And not just this one, today's leak is even more. So today's leak, even more so, where we're going to go through, destroys the whole trafficking concept because they basically got freedom of movement.
Let's go back to this one. So she is so for being kidnapped or being trafficked, and the allegations of phones being taken away and people being forced to stay there. You've just got here's a girl saying, one of the quote unquote victims saying, I'm not concerned. Tristan doesn't really care if I leave. I'm going because I'm going because we've made the brothers believe we are in love. So essentially said she made the brothers believe that they're in love and she can leave anytime. So that's her to her mother.
It doesn't mean that by the way, it doesn't mean that other people are in the same situation. So
yeah.
It's like it's her experience. They trust. Well, I don't know. We don't know if there's other allegations, right? Like, are they basing this entire case on these 2 women?
Yeah.
Are they? Do you know that for 100%?
Yeah. So according to the court document, these 2, basically the entire allegations, these 2 are the main basis. You've got a scenario where these 2, and then you've got 2 more. And the other 2, they're saying they've actually come out and said we're not victims, and they're lying about us. The prosecutor has made us victims, and we're not victims. And the basis of them being victims is these 2 women. Because what happened was they did a psych report on these 2 women, and based on their word, they said the other 2 women are brainwashed. So these women, which now, like I said, it blows everything over.
Hold on. What you're saying is that the psych report on these 2 women was used to show that the other 2 women were brainwashed?
100%. They were never saw a psychologist.
Where is the source of this?
The source of it is so basically it was leaked, I believe. It's either a judicial document or Gondel, but that's confirmed. Like, and I confirmed that as well. That's like definite. They have not had a psych report.
This is crazy. Yeah,
So
this
that's
is.
what I'm saying. These two women are the whole show. So that's what when these
No,
two
you
women
said
get
four to.
exposed,
You said it's 4 to 6. So you talked about two that they said
Yeah.
that weren't trafficked. These two, the records kind of question any allegations they make.
Yeah.
But then there's two left, no?
So this is the thing.
Potentially.
So Daycott said there were 6 in the 12th of December. The 29th of December release, they said there were 6. So there's possibly 2 more. But in the judicial documents, they don't refer to them at all. So that's why I said possibly it could be, but we don't know.
It doesn't look good, bro. It doesn't
Well,
look good.
I'll say it depends on whether they have more than these two and the other two that you said that have come out and said that, you know, because if they're saying, because if they're saying, because if they're brainwashed, I don't know that they can testify really, you know,
That's the reason.
because you can't prove.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's
So
the
legally,
that's my view, that the reason they did that, the reason why they called them 2 women brainwashed, is because them 2 women were going to testify to the country. And then what do you do when you've got all these women testifying to the country and you've only got the American and UK women? Well, you said they're all brainwashed. So I think it was a tactical move to discard testimony of all these other women. These strong women, allegedly women are strong unless they don't go against your view, and then they're weak, pathetic, and can be brainwashed.
Okay.
And so all of these women are brainwashed. I'm sorry to be rude. I'm just going to get a charger just in case my thing switches off. So I'll be 30
Yeah,
seconds.
sure. Let me
Okay.
let me go through it in the meantime.
well, let's say we dismiss Mario. Let's say we dismiss these 2 women that quote unquote are brainwashed or not, right? Let's assume they don't support this. If that leaves potentially 2 women that we don't know, that they're sort of unknown factors right now. So then this leaves just
these 2 women are not in the documents either, the judicial documents.
These are not. So then they don't really have a case, it seems, at least not based on these allegations.
It doesn't. I'm telling you, it just doesn't look good. Like it's surprising to me. Yeah, it doesn't look good for the prosecutors. Let me go through the discussion with her and her family. So we only went 1 sentence already.
Yeah.
Already we kind of like shit. This is crazy. Let's go to the next one. So her mom, no, continuing Emma. This is all Emma. It's starting to glitch a bit. KK. Okay, it's good now. Main concerns are coming from things some girls are saying. My main concerns are coming from. Okay. So there's an important one. Main concerns are coming from things some girls are saying. It's a lot to explain, but we will be out of here fine. I don't think they care about that much if we leave anyways, which is why I feel okay. I will make the call and do the right thing in the situation. Right now, we both want to be in London. So this is all Emma to her mother, to her family. We don't know if it's her mother. So her mother responds with a voice note, and then Emma's like, can't listen to voice messages. All right, so before we continue, essentially she's saying that, hey, I'm not like, we're fine, or I'm fine. I can leave any time. They think we love them. I think she's talking about her and the other girl.
Mm-hmm.
And she has concerns from what other girls are saying, correct? Did I get that right?
Did we lose Suleiman?
Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, man. It's glitching a bit. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm just gonna move because what's happened is I've got some charge problems. But yeah, I can hear you. Yeah. So, what was what's your thought?
So the first section, essentially, it just shows that the girl is saying to her mom, I'm okay. I can leave anytime. They think I love them, but I've got concerns from what other girls are saying, and this is why I really need to get out. It's a lot to explain. I'll be out of here fine. I don't think they care much if I leave. So it just shows that she's not being forced to stay, and she's one of the victims. She's not being forced to stay. She can leave anytime. They think she loves them, but she did say she has concerns coming from things some girls are saying, which is worth noting. Okay, Simon?
Yeah, so basically, again, you've got a scenario here where she's saying that she's got complete freedom of movement. She can leave whenever she wants. And so she's not a victim of human trafficking, quite clearly.
Exactly.
In terms of the other women, again, that's her judgment on the other women. And so we need them women to explain if they have been victims or not, or what the scenario is. But yeah, this is
And
the
we
basis
know,
of
and being able to trust her judgment after we saw the first correspondence is just
exactly.
a bit difficult. All right, let's continue. Kath, I don't know if you have anything to add on this one before we continue.
Yeah, I just got a message from someone that sent me the full log of those messages that had come out. So I
Catherine just
think
got a
we're.
leak live on air.
No, it's
I don't know.
it's the
I don't
same
know if
thing.
it's a leak, but
No, it's the same thing we're going to go through next. So these messages,
yeah.
except for the first, I think 1 or 2, the rest of them are actually in today's leak as well.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So should we continue going through her discussion with the family, or they're going to be in today's leak? Should we do them next leak?
It's up to you. But yeah, I think we should
No.
go through it and then we can just skip over it if it comes again.
Okay. All right. Let's do it. Let's finish it now. So yeah, I think Catherine, what you have is the second, the leak that came out today, which we'll be covering now. All right. So
Yeah,
her mum.
it's not the family, by the way. The one that I have is from the original chat between Olena and Bear.
Okay.
Can you send it through? Can you send it through to me, Slayman? Let's have a quick look at it to make
Yeah,
sure. Yeah,
I'll send it to you. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll forward it to Slayman.
Oh no, I know which one it is. It's today's leak.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go through today's leak, Catherine, and tell me if it's different. Okay.
If it's different, we can go through this first because Catherine said that this one.
Yeah. All right. Let's continue. All right. Let's see what her mum says. Go to London, but again, there's that arrow thing, KK. But I have the American embassy, all the American embassy on alert. But you have all the American embassy on alert. You're causing a major upheaval because the Marines and all the American squad is on the go now. Fuck it, Emma. Fuck it. So she essentially upset that Emma called the embassy and got everyone on alert. And then Emma responds, "You called. I didn't. Mom, I want to leave to London." So she wants to leave Romania to London, correct?
Yeah. And she says, "Can you hear me?"
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Let me keep reading. You called. That's on you. Tell them to come on Tuesday when we leave. Then they can see everything. Look, if you stop me from going to London, expect me to disappear. I want to go to London.
Can you stop there, please, Mario? That's imperative.
Bro, yeah.
For me, that is imperative. So what she's doing is she's basically blackmailing her mum, saying that if you do not let me go to London, I'm going to disappear. And I've uncovered, and I put it in the latest thread, that this is a common occurrence that she does where she goes missing, disappears, and uses this to blackmail her parents. So she's essentially Yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, just blackmail is such a strong word. Why do you use blackmail?
What would you use? What word would you use for someone saying that if you don't let me go to London, I'm going to disappear?
I mean, that's.
No, just give me a better word. I'll use it.
Okay, sure. You can
I would put it as blackmail too. I think if you're not going to go to London, I would disappear. What do you think, Kath? Now, what do you think? Maybe I'm seeing it wrong. Is there a way to see that?
I mean, blackmail. Like, what are you getting from that?
What you're getting
from that? It's like saying I'm not going to talk to you. You know. So I just don't.
Well. What you get from it is that basically her parents believe her story. They listen to what she's saying. They're the ones who call the embassy, not her. And she's not happy that she called them, but she just wants to go to London and go on an adventure, whatever it may be. So the parents are in a tough spot where they've got to basically listen to all her whims and desires, because if they don't, like you said, she's going to disappear and go missing.
Okay.
Let's continue reading it. Go to London, but listen to voicemail. Go to London, but okay. Then you see everything. If you stop me from going, I'll disappear. I want to go to London. Why does she go? Do you know why she wants to go to London so bad? And what does that have to do with her calling the embassy?
She wants to go to London, I presume, because Aliona's from London, so they both want to basically move to London together.
That's fucking crazy. If
Yeah.
it's true. How dare you put me in anger like I want to go to London. How dare you put me in danger like that? You called, not me. And then her mom, is that her mom?
Yeah.
Go to hell, Emma, with your arrogance and ignorance and bullshit. Go to Whoop Whoop Land or Bangkok or Bora Bora. Who is stopping you? The whole American embassy's on alert. Shame on you. And then Emma's like, that's your fault. Thanks. So why is her mom so much against her going to London?
So from the longer transcript, you see that basically they want to bring her back to United States because, I mean, I'm not a psychologist, so I don't want to impose a kind of like psychiatric implication on her, but it seems like they want to bring her to US and basically talk to her and tell her to change her ways, because it looks like this is a common way of acting for her.
Yeah, and I saw in your thread that you did show an example of her having disappeared and having disappeared a few years before that. Yeah.
This is just the surface. I'm gonna have some big revelations coming up.
Give us a hint. What is it, bro?
I can't. Not yet.
What would be like? Is it her disappearing more, having a pretty? Is it her background a bit shady?
I can't say right now, but it's.
Is it about Emma?
I can't say. I'm not being weird, but I'll definitely do a space with you once
Okay,
I'm allowed to make it public.
How big is it? If you want to do a space with me, that means it's fucking major.
It's major.
I like you, bro. Like you investigate. Well, I mean, we might disagree a lot, but I like how deep you go into investigations, man. You went deep into this shit. It's gonna be fun. All right, man. Let's continue this. It's gonna be really cool. It's gonna become a movie, man. And why did the mum call, by the way? Why did the mum call the embassy?
So we don't know that. One presumes that basically it looks like it's based on whatever Emma's told her, and then she's basically called the embassy. So, but we don't have that conversation.
I imagine she's worried about her daughter, right?
Yeah,
based on
Yeah, but so her daughter told her information that convinced the mum to call the embassy, and then she blames the mum for calling the embassy.
Yep, it's always somebody else's fault.
Well, she's upset. Like I can see that because she maybe wasn't ready on her terms. And look, she does come across as a pretty immature person. Like I don't know how old she is, and it doesn't even matter. You can be any age and be immature. But like based on the conversations, based on her life choices, she's not an exactly super mature person who makes great decisions. Like there is some personal responsibility there too, obviously, regardless of whether she is a victim or not in this situation. There is bad choices that have led her on this path, and so she doesn't strike me as somebody who makes good decisions. And clearly, her correspondence with her parents also supports that. She does have a bad pattern. And then now she's, and her parents are concerned because they're trying to kind of manage her in these conversations and stay in good relationship with her and believe her, but also convince her to do the right thing. And she, despite being, portraying that she's at the very least that she's in this bad situation, she still wants to kind of enjoy life and be in London. So even if this did happen to her, she is still dealing with things in a very kind of immature way. So she's not a particularly serious person, so.
But that's you've got someone. I think with the way you describe, I think you described it very accurately, and I can't disagree with what you said. But now you've got someone with that profile accusing people of horrendous acts, and that's what the concern is.
Yeah, and here's the thing with my view on this situation in general. So there are certain things that I've come across, like my view on Andrew Tate in general. Like originally, I didn't know anything about him. Then I was watching a lot of his videos, and I was like, okay, some of the things he says and like are fine. Some of the things and some of them I agree with. Some of the things he says are like, oh man, really disagree with. When all of this started happening, and that's when I took a closer look, right? Like the lover boy thing, it's undeniable. Some of the things he said in his own words, very much just, I very disagree with, right? But when we're dealing with this case, it's something else, because then we're dealing with a legal standard. When we're dealing with a legal standard, that's different from my personal moral judgment on him, right? So I'm trying to approach it from that perspective, as opposed to like, whether I like what he stands for or not. So
excellently.
So when we're talking with these women, I am trying to give it some benefit of the doubt when I'm looking at these messages, because I do think that it's incomplete. I think there could be missing information. But at the same time, is this enough to cast some doubt or serious doubt? Are they good character witnesses and things like that? I certainly think that it does cast doubt on them as being good character witnesses, is being good evidence.
All right, so let's go to the second part. I think that was well said by Catherine. Slayman agrees. KK, let's go to the second discussion, second thread, second transcript. All right, so Crabman, who's not that good at articulating things, but just gets a lot of stuff. He's got so much stuff. He's like another version of Slayman on the other side of the debate. Just needs help articulating things. All right, so this is a bit glitchy. I'm not sure if I can't read it, KK. We need a
You
better
have to zoom
resolution
in.
one. Yeah, I'm zooming in, but just not it's still blurry. Is it working for you guys? Okay, now it's good. Now it's good. Yeah, perfect. All right. Let's see. Gorge. So we have the first one is gorgeous over here. Lucky you. I'm leaving to London in a couple of. All right. So that's Emma talking to who? Do you know who that is, Slayman?
Sorry, what was that? Sorry.
So I'm going through the transcript now. We see Emma. Who's she talking to? The first page. You there?
Yeah, sorry, I'm reading it to remember. Right, I think this is a conversation between Emma and her two parents. It looks like it's a group chat.
All right. So gorgeous over here. Lucky you. I'm leaving to London in a couple of days. Tristan. So that was on the 10th of April. That was in the same period. That was exactly the same date. Wasn't that the
That's
same
right.
dates we saw earlier? Yeah, all right.
It is.
Tristan and his brother are terrible people. So highlight
Oh,
that
sorry,
one.
Mario. One thing I forgot to mention in your last thread that you talked about, the between her mum and her, that's happening on the 6th of April. So for your viewers, she's already called the embassy either on the same day or within a day of when they've arrived.
So when did she arrive to Romania?
So I don't know the exact date, but from what the court document says, 6 days. So it's either she arrived on the 6th or around that time, and then messaged
Okay,
her on the 6th.
and when was the raid?
12th.
And this is on the 10th, 2 days before the raid. All right.
Yeah.
I'm leaving to London in a couple of days. Tristan and his brother are terrible people, bringing a girl that's been stuck here with me. Maybe I came here for a reason, cutting my losses, and we're making a plan to leave. These guys are actually evil. So this is Emma saying this to her family. Now, whether you want to trust what she's saying or not is a different discussion.
Yeah.
Then redacted, so I'm guessing family member. Be very, very careful. Talk to the American embassy if you can. And she attaches an image. And then Emma's like, bought girl a ticket. She will transfer dollars to me. Do you think that's the Moldovan girl?
Yeah, it's the UK woman, yeah.
Okay. The UK Moldovan girl. And this is Emma, the American girl. Her family. Send the whole itinerary. How are you going out of the house? Out of his house. Send the whole itinerary. How will you get out? Do you think he will let you go after investing so much in you? They have a plan for you and the girl, and it's very dangerous. So this is the family member saying that to the daughter of Emma.
Yeah.
Emma, I'm going to stay at my friend blah blah hotel when I land in London. Blah blah and I will host blah blah and will host me for a couple of weeks while I get some work and make some money out there and go on adventures. So she's going out with the other girl in London. And then she continues, I'm a little worried about leaving, but we set our flight up for 6 a.m. He moved me into a house. So she's talking about Tristan here, I guess. He moved me into a house with 4 other girls. 3 of the 4 girls have been here for 1 to 5 years and are the groomers. They normalize taking your clothes off and sending them pictures all together. So essentially, she's there with other girls that train her on how to work in the webcam business. Tristan's brother is dating blah blah from blah blah.
No, but, sorry, Mark. Sorry, it doesn't say train, does it? She's saying they've normalized taking your clothes off. So yeah, I mean, from someone who's not from the Western liberal society.
Groomers aren't they groomers? They're the ones that train the girls.
Well, I guess yeah, groomer could be that.
Yeah, she is calling them groomers. So she is being pretty explicit as to what her views are, or at least how she wants to portray how she sees it to her family. Yeah.
Well, what's important here is she's calling them groomers here, and then later she calls them victims. But anyway, let's carry on.
All right.
Well, some of them might be groomers, and some of them might be victims. So.
And they could be groomers and
no, she was only living with 2 or 3 girls. So the girls that she was living with. Oh yeah, I suppose they could be
Okay. All right. So now what we're seeing now, and for anyone listening, we're going through the second transcript that was leaked today. These are WhatsApp messages leaked today that Slayman and others have analyzed on their threads. We'll continue. Tristan's brother is dating blah blah from blah blah. She has broken up with him. He texted her telling her if she loves him, she will cut an A into her wrist. His name is Andrew. So I don't get this one. So Tristan's dating a girl from whatever, and she broke up with him because he texted her telling her if she loves him, she will cut. He told her, if you love me, cut an A into your wrist. and she broke up with him.
Yeah, and I think this is important because what you have is a scenario here where this is happening throughout the whole case. I'm noticing it quite a lot. All of these are this U.S. woman claiming these things are happening to other women, but those women are saying no, it's not happening to me, and there's no corroboration about what's happening. No CCTV.
Have we seen any women with wrist cut with Andrew's name or any of that?
No, not in terms of We've got people who've got tattoos.
Tattoos, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
but not.
I think isn't there correspondence of Andrew saying that, telling a girl that, hey, you have to put my name onto you have to put my as a tattoo again.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Anyway,
yeah.
Look, if he's getting girls to tattoo his name on them, getting to kind of carve it into their skin, not too far fetched, but that's
very different. What tattoo is quite different to getting someone to carve. So getting someone to carve something into your skin is basically a very horrendous act. It's very common that partners get each other's tattoos. Obviously, if he's into it, I find it's not something I'm into, but some people are into it. If they're into it, that's their choice.
Yeah. So I'm seeing here people from the audience are sending us some. So the thread that you're referring to, Catherine, is the one we're reading now.
It is the one you're reading now. I will say that with the tattoos or with even with slicing, I mean, while I find that a bit, because it is very one-sided, and I might find that problematic, but even so, yes, one thing is whether it's consent, but B, the accusation itself, like, you do need to corroborate it, right? So somebody saying that in a message isn't really evidence. So
yeah, and I do want to, Slayman, moving forward, I came up with an idea. Anyone that wants to speak, except Catherine, but anyone else that wants to speak on my stage has to carve their name on their chest. So just,
bro, what are you doing? You're literally gonna go to prison for human trafficking right now. So I'm gonna take it literally. That's a joke. Mario is joking.
Mario's trafficking speakers onto his stage.
Well, one of us actually runs an actual cult right now, so it's called Catherineology. So
right,
I've had it for like 10 years now. So
KK, you've zoomed out again, so I cannot read. So if you could zoom back in, that would be good. In the meantime, I'll read from my. Oh, there he is. It's back. All right, let's continue. I'm a little worried about leaving, but we are set our flight at 6 a.m. He moved into a house full of girls. Tristan's brother's dating the girl. All right, they are definitely trafficking women.
So just that point, I think you've hit another important point. She's booked her flight, right? So she's going to be able to leave. So again, remember a lot of these people, like Syrian girl, who were putting rumors across about there being no passports and them taking the passports away. This dispels the whole passport controversy that these people on your space were stating that he's taken their passport away and they had hidden evidence that none of us knew about. But this demonstrates they had access to flights.
Well, okay, so at least these two did.
Yeah. Exactly. No, they were talking about these two because these two women allegedly were represented by Eliza Blue, and Syrian girl and et al. Were basically had direct contact with them, and therefore the information was from that. That was the source of the information.
Well, I will say that, to be fair, since we do not have confirmation, as far as I know, that people's passports were taken away, that we can't say that they were taken away.
Yeah, I agree. And then to add to that, this infers that they actually had access to them because they're booking a flight and are going to take a flight.
Sure.
All right, let's continue going through it, which is a fair point. But then she says they are definitely trafficking women. The families, I told you, now try to get out of there quietly. Man, I don't know that family, but if my daughter's there, I'll be out there with guns. I'm going to get this girl out. Her name is Alyona. There we go. Hi, Dad here. So this is her dad. Stop your messages now. Go low-key as you are in a very dangerous... blah, blah. Messages now. Go low-key as you're in a very dangerous situation. Emma, this is a secure chat. They don't check the phones. I'm actually in the best position to be able to get. So I know. They have access to their phone. Yeah, they have access to their phone. They don't check their phone.
And they don't check them. Another allegation made by anti-Tate people that has just been refuted on this leak.
Cool. All right. I've actually had a great day reading those, waking up to that leak, Slayman.
No, I was shocked. I woke up to Sam basically saying, Suleiman, are you going to comment on these or are you going to ignore this? And I was like, okay. So,
no, I mean not those ones. I mean the one yesterday. You would have worked. This one.
I thought these were better. I thought these leaks were more obvious and more blatant. I believe, in my view, these leaks prove human trafficking didn't occur more so than the other ones. So already
I'm
we've
actually in the best position to be able to get out right now. The other girls might tell them, though, we are going to leave when they are sleeping. These girls are brainwashed. They don't do anything except stay at the house, and if they leave, everyone has to know. There are handlers too. Thankfully, I'm out of the house with Tristan. I asked to leave to one of the other homes. So she's saying here that she has to sneak out at night when they're all sleeping.
Yep, that's what I claim.
Okay. It's an important claim. Is that refuted anywhere in her discussion? Because in the discussions we read earlier from the leaks from yesterday or 2 days ago, does it show that they can leave? Did they say they can leave any time? Doesn't it?
Yeah. She says she can leave at any time, even in
But
here.
that's in her discussion. That in her discussion with Aliona, her and Aliona, she says like we can leave any time.
Yeah.
But now to her mum, she's making it seem like they cannot get out. They have to sneak out. Correct?
To an extent, but then she's saying that it's not because of the Tates, but because of other women that's living there. So that's the first thing.
No,
she
but
said.
the other women will tell the Tate.
Yeah,
The other women
exactly.
Yeah.
I agree.
So she says. So in this one, she says it's about Tate. But I would say, like, I would support you there because in the other one is her chatting to the other girl that they're planning this together. So that one can be taken more seriously than her telling her family because she wants her family to kind of worry for her, call the embassy, etc. Correct?
Exactly. And in addition to that, you've got two girls who are actually Aliona's living in the property, so she's not going to basically say to her something's happening that's not happening. Whereas when the family's got no sight into what's happening, you can basically make anything up.
What do you think, Catherine?
Yeah. Sorry, I got distracted by more messages coming in that I just sent you.
I'll let you go through. I'll brief you on it. It's very brief, and I'll continue.
Yeah.
Essentially, she's telling her family that, hey, I have to sneak out, otherwise other girls will know and they'll tell the Tates.
Right.
And that she's moving to another home. But that was her telling that to her family, which she wants them to worry because they called the embassy, etc. But when she talked to her friend, Aliona, who was there with her, she's telling her we can get out anytime they think we love them. So it's kind of just contradicting. But I'll keep going through it. And
yeah, and I'll say, like, this is the thing. Sometimes you read these things and you don't, because people's intentions when they talk to different people is different. It can be inconsistent, and it's not a great thing. But like in one case, it might be trying to rally the other person up because we can go. Don't worry, right? Like, don't lose your courage.
And
the other case, we're fine. Yeah,
she has more incentive to kind of overdo it for the family. She has an incentive to overdo it, not for the friend that's living there. So it's kind of it kind of confirms Slaman's point. But I'll go through it. Let's see what else goes in there. Thankfully, I'm out of the house. Please don't think this is the family now. Please don't think you are more clever. I think it's the father. Please don't think you are more clever than these guys. Keep a low profile. Be careful how you are getting out, how you are getting to get your needs. Do not display your aggression that you have. You will not win. So he's telling her how to get out, etc. Get to London and come back to safety.
He's telling her not
we will
to be
get
aggressive.
the tickets. Telling her not to be what? Not to be aggressive. Okay.
He's saying that her normal state is aggression, or she generally displays emotions of aggression, and he's telling her not to do that in this case.
Do not display your aggression that you have. Yeah, true. Get to London and come back to safety. We will get the tickets. Tristan let her go. So I think it's another family member saying it. Emma, so it just makes it seem like she's manipulating her family to get her the tickets to London, correct?
Yeah.
I'm trying to be objective here, but I'm just saying that's how I see it. Emma's like, thanks, love. No worries. I can get the tickets. Oh, okay. She doesn't want the tickets. She can get them herself. You shouldn't have to worry about the dollars. This is my fault. But I'm glad I came because there is another young girl here that definitely needs my help. She's talking about the other girl.
Yeah.
All right, then family member, I know you are not getting your help with the situation to help anyone who is now at risk other than yourself. Now we should be in a total survival mode. Get low key. You are not going to be able to help anyone but yourself. I'm being realistic. Wake up to your bad situation and with no heroism or heroics. We just need you to be safe where you can really consider your actions that put you at risk every day. Emma's like, I know the situation. I'll be okay. The best way to approach this is calm and nonchalantly. Nonchalantly, is that how you say it? Nonchalantly, yeah. That's survival. I'll be okay, love. Just wanted to keep you in the loop. We'll get updates. Should be in London by the 12th. Hold on. Isn't the raid on the 12th?
Yeah, so they'll plan to leave before the raid, or June at the same time as the raid.
Family, okay, but be ready to just be in transit. We need you back home to really have you. So they think she's going back home. We need to have you back home to really have you to have a very in-depth talk. I'm still your loving dad, as mum is always your best friend. Poor parents. I'm still 11, but enough is enough. I'm worrying. Family. Okay, I'm going to bed now. Emma, I'm going to talk to blank. It's going to be okay. I love you both. Family. Well, that is really assuring. Tell me really what is really going on. Emma, I've told you what's going on. I'm remaining as calm as possible. I also don't have a big belief that they will stop us from going because we've made the brothers believe we are in love. They think we will run back, which we read earlier, which kind of discredits. So that she said earlier that other girls will tell the Tate she's worried, but she's like, I'm not worried because they think we're in love. Contradicting. My main concerns are coming from things some girls are saying. It's a lot to explain, but we'll be out of here fine. I don't think they care much if we leave anyway. Sort of okay. A lot of girls seem
So they
brainwashed
can
here.
leave.
Yeah, so we're going through the same discussion again. Let me open up another screen because I can't see from the arrows. It's a lot to explain, but we'll be out of here fine. I don't think they care much if we leave anyways, which is why I feel okay, sort of okay. A lot of girls seem brainwashed here. But look, no, look. I know you don't believe I can handle this, but I can. I'm not concerned. Tristan doesn't really care if I leave. Another key point here.
Hmm.
It's more of the girl I'm with. Okay, does she mean she's concerned about the girl she's with, about being able to leave?
I mean,
So I'll
if
read
you
out what
carry
she
on reading,
says. But okay, I'll carry on reading. But then that kind of earlier in the chat, they did talk about both of them not being worried.
yeah.
I also want to go to London to see one of the girls and gather evidence. We are going to send it to the FBI. Question mark. So much for honesty. Laughs. Okay, I've got this on my own, and I want to go to London and finally enjoy my trip. Thanks for the chat. Just want to let you know what's happened. You aren't the only ones who know my location and where I'm at. Everything will be okay. Please don't add stress to it all. I love you both and we'll be unharmed and safe. I just know how important it is for you to know what situation I've gotten myself into now. I just really wanted to travel, have a new love, have fun, make good money playing music, and see more of the world. So I want to go to London just to finally have that experience. This is a good. She's really focusing on going to London. This is a good opportunity for me to do that. Now that it's been bloody awful. Nothing happened here to me so far, but I don't want to stick around and find out. Yeah.
Nothing's happened to us so far. I missed that actually before.
Oh yeah, shit. Yeah, how do you miss that? Nothing's happened to me so far, but I don't want to stick around and find out. Yeah, okay, yeah, it's important one to point, but it does show. Okay, so if you take out the first leak, the one from yesterday, this does show concern.
It
I
does.
don't think so.
Sulaiman.
I think this is even more damning because what it shows is no trafficking. It shows they had freedom of movement. They could leave when they wanted. They had access to their phones. They have a scenario where, like I said, the parents want her back in the US, but she's adamant she wants to go to London. And so for me, because remember, we're talking about the allegations of trafficking, isn't it? Not about like how she thought a relationship was going to be or whatever it may be. Specifically about the allegations of trafficking, she's got access to her phone. She's got access to freedom. She's saying, nothing happened to her. So from that perspective, there's no case.
Let
This
me
for
go
me
through it. I want to
this
see.
is
I
the
want to see
death.
the comments. I want to see the comments. What people are saying. I haven't looked at them yet. I'm just gonna go through the comments briefly. But Catherine, what do you think? Because it does show, like all the points that Sulaiman just made. True, 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 true. But it does show. She does say, "I'm scared to get out because the other girls could find out and tell the Taste." But then she says, "I don't
Well,
think that he'll care because he
so
thinks I love him."
yeah, so there's a few things going on. Well, first, yes, he has because she thinks that he trusts her. There's less concern, so that's one way to potentially to interpret it. I actually found this particular. It's interesting that Suleiman thinks that this is more damning. I actually thought it was quite kind of the opposite. Because in this situation, I think it does show, at least in what she's trying to portray to her parents, that there is more of a danger, that it's a bad situation. Maybe she hasn't experienced quite the brunt of it, but she's observed it with other women, that they're brainwashed, that there's groomers, so I think she says a lot of things in this particular context that I think can be interpreted in a more negative light towards the Tate brothers. She wants to gather FBI evidence, which shows that there is more, that there might be evidence to gather. So I think it's actually a little bit more damning than certainly the first series of messages. I think was more damning towards them versus this batch of messages.
Catherine, so in terms of when you
By
say
the
it's
way,
damning,
Sulaiman, just quickly, I
yeah.
just to let you know, bro, I have more leaks, my friend. Let me send you now. Not ones we have.
Yeah,
Someone sent them through in the comments.
And I also sent you some, Mario. I don't know if it's the same ones.
Let me see if it is. Did you send them my old number? I think. Let me. Yeah, these are the ones. I think. Hold on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this is it. This is it. Let me send it to you. The last one he sent me, Catherine. Yeah, the last one.
But then they were new what Catherine found.
Yeah. So So Catherine sent me the first ones, which are ones we're reading now. She sent me another one that just came out.
Okay, I'll check.
We'll read it in a bit. Yeah. Well, let me finish. Let's finish this one, and then we'll go through it live. So we do have. If anyone have more listening, we do have more leaks. I've asked for the source, Catherine. If you could ping your whoever sent it to you as well to ask for the source, but it does look the same format, etc., like identical. But yeah, the person that just sent it through, the one I found, he's one of the comments on Twitter. This one. So okay, don't open the new one yet. Don't open the new one. Yeah, exactly. This is it. This is one of the ones that leaked it. All right, so let's go back to it. KK, where are we up to? Let me open it on the other one. I want to save this one. This is an interesting one. Okay, I'll save this. I'll do that after. All right, so I'm gonna go to the one we're covering now. Let me go back to it.
Yeah.
All right, where are we up to? Actually, we read it all, didn't we?
Yeah, we read it all. So my question to Catherine was this: you know, when you look at what she said, and so if you take the emotion out of it and her kind of psychology of what's happening, and you look at it from a evidentiary point of view in terms of what's happening, so access to phones, freedom of movement, and freedom to take a flight, that goes against. Do you accept that would go against one of the aspects of, because one of the aspects of human trafficking which you have to meet is that they were basically locked up. They had no movement. Does that? Yeah. What do you think that? Do you think that goes against that they were able to access the world through their phones, they were able to move freely, and they were able to get on flights?
I think in their case, yes. I think the new messages we're going to look at probably shortly will show some form of surveillance potentially. Again, I think when we're dealing with messages in general, one thing that I think is important to note, it's always going to be either A, missing context, or A, missing context, or B, it's also a picture that somebody wants to paint to whoever they're speaking to.
Yeah,
and exactly. Sometimes that picture is false, and that could suit or benefit or harm the case, right? Like it doesn't matter. It's just always going to be potentially false because, I might text my mom something and misrepresent my situation or my safety because I want her to feel more comfortable, right? Like not to worry about me. Or I might actually do the opposite too, right? I might want somebody to worry about me more because I want their attention or something, right? So people manipulate other people all the time. And so when we're looking at these sources, like there is a level of like, there's no real proof in there. It is just somebody's like, not even really fully their opinion. It's there because it's full of intent, and so it's kind of tricky evidence to consider in that way too.
I completely agree.
But to what you're saying, to your point of like, did they have access to a passport? Just even the behavior that they were able to leave, yes, and the fact that they had access to a phone, those are very concrete things. They did have at least in that time period, they had access to the phone. At least she did. And so did the other girl, right? Because they were both texting each other and they felt safe enough that they could send these kinds of texts to each other, that they were unlikely to be monitored. So in that regard, if you're trying to establish, imprisonment of some sort, your point is supported.
Yeah.
So I do want to go. I want to just mention that we do have a thread. Let me tweet it out. We do have another leak that we're about to cover now. So let me just get the team, and we're gonna. Do you have it, Slayman?
Yeah. I'm sure I've seen this earlier on today, but then they all look very similar. It may not be. Yeah. I've read this before. I've read this earlier.
Oh, okay.
It's basically when she wants to say, "I want to be famous and I want to be rich," and yeah.
Okay. So you've seen this already a few hours ago.
Yeah, I saw this after I made my thread. But yeah, I've seen it.
Okay. All right, let's go through this one as well. Let me go through it. KK, have it open. Let me see if it's clear on the screen. It's blurry, KK. We need it it more zoomed. I'm using my phone. So if you can make it okay, cool. I don't know if maybe it's not blurry on your end, KK. You can probably see from the audience's point of view. So I'll let you figure that out. I'll read from my phone. All right. So this is Emma and Alyona speaking, the two victims, or the two victims based on the prosecution. Good advice. Thank you, babe. How far is food, by the way? Are you as hungry as me? We will talk more tonight too, Alyona. And the prize for best actress is going to Emma. Alyona's laughing. Yeah, I'm starving. I can't see through because the app is not showing me. Image omitted. I need to work out a bit. And he's discussing an image of her. I need to work a bit. Like to
Oh,
post
by the
some
way, I will say just very quickly on this, in this context, it's not clear that the best actress part is to do with anything to do with the case.
Sure, but they did talk about it earlier relating to the case. So
Yeah.
and it's the same day, so
Yeah.
it doesn't look good.
It's just it does contextually
Okay.
look.
Yeah. All right. So they're talking about Oscars and stuff. What time will you have to do? But that's pretty bad. Like, imagine you're a victim and you're talking about getting an Oscar and being part of a movie. That's pretty
Very bad.
shitty. I swear, man. If the Tates are actually arrested, wrongfully arrested, and they're actually innocent, which we don't know. Like this is one of the allegations. More allegations. There's more victims, etc. But if the Tates were wrongfully arrested, imagine the feeling. I've always thought about people wrongfully arrested for years and years. So that's such a shitty feeling.
No, bro, it's worse than that. Like, it's not just being wrongfully arrested is horrendous. And one thing I found is a lot of people who are supporting Tate and maybe didn't know him before is because they've had some form of false accusations before. I've had false accusation of a financial, and then it took me 5 years to exonerate myself. So that's why whenever it comes to a scenario where we are in this scenario, we always want evidence. And then I will exonerate myself to the High Court and won. But the point is, that took 5 years. So that's why whenever someone's accused of anything, I always want the evidence because I won't accept it because I know what happens to innocent people.
Fair point. All right, let me continue going through this. What time will you have to do image omitted? I need to work out a bit. Like to post some TikToks. A golden Oscar now, please. Fuck Glovo. Laugh my ass off. What time will you have to do that? Alyona, once I get famous and rich, I will make sure I get one for you.
That again,
so I don't know how.
What? Look, famous and rich.
Where's the money coming from? Where's the money coming from, though?
Exactly. I'm unsure about that. But in terms of look at her psyche. Her psyche is about becoming famous and rich, getting an Oscar, going to Netflix, going to Hulu, going to Amazon, and that's both of them. This for me is very, very damaging in terms of from a psychological point of view. What you're doing for me when it's a victim and you're being through and human trafficking, you're not thinking about making money or making baggies as they say, but you're thinking about getting out of the situation and trying to basically get better. So this is just, I think, is just too damaging, and that's why real victims of trafficking and rape. That's why it's important that even for them that these things are called out, because what these things will do is real people who've gone through these things, no one's going to believe them, and that's for me scary as well, because real victims and real people are going through these things.
Let's go through Emma. I'm just wondering how late we can stay up, because Blank is constantly listening. Can't wait to watch you all in the movies. You're already famous in my eyes, lol. What is that? Blank is already listening, and then back to movies. We'll see how we do it later. What are they serious about the movie? Am I missing something?
Okay, so there's two things here that I'm kind of curious about. So obviously the Blank is constantly listening, so there does seem to indicate somebody is at least surveilling them. So that's potentially iffy. But the movie thing, I mean, again, I it sucks that I wish I could compare the timestamps. I haven't had a chance to look at this versus like the timelines with the previous messages. But in this context, like, could they be talking about just being in movies? I think, could they just be obsessed with fame? Like, could there be another conversation prior to this? If this is indeed them talking about, getting famous off of the taking down Tate and that sort of thing, that's obviously very damning, terrible, reprehensible, all these words, right? but could they be talking about something else? Is the question mark for me.
Yeah, it's for anyone that just quickly, I'll let you respond, Slayman. Just for anyone listening, because I just tweeted out this video and more people came in. Like, we just got more leaks. We've been covering it for a while. This is the third round of leaks that we got, and in this case, we're just going through Emma and Aliona speaking about, you know, their acting skills and then getting an Oscar and then getting money in the future and getting out of a movie. This is the third leak. We're about almost a third of the way through the third leak. We finished the first two, and there's 2 points of concern that Catherine mentioned. One of them says because blank is constantly listening, which shows that they're potentially being tracked. And I've got another one that I just saw. Maybe I'm just gonna read out. Maybe I'll read out one other one in that first third, that first page.
And I'll just say one more thing too, like just that might be somewhat relevant. Like I knew somebody who was involved in a shady operation, right? Of their own free will, but you know, made some bad choices in her life, and ended up going to prison, etc. But when the person wanted to get out, it was not like an easy thing to do. At the same time, the person did have access to passports, had access to a phone, all the things, right? But the threat is still looming. So it's just something to consider.
The thing is, the girls said that they can get out anytime. They're not worried about them getting out. But let me quickly read out the third. Just gonna read out quickly the third. The second thing I found here that could be a point of concerns. So this is Emma, the American girl, telling the British Moldovan girl, talking about how much she loves you, and she says the following: "Love, I'm happy we've met. I will protect you and make sure we get out of here safely. I promise."
So
and then she replies, "Thank you. I'm sure we can do this. Get out of this fucking mess."
Yeah.
If we can make them believe we are in love, they will either not suspect us of leaving whatsoever, or they will find out we do. Exactly. Or they will find out we do. They eventually will. They won't chase. They will believe we are coming back, or at least try to come back, that we are obsessed with them. Yeah, I told you to be like saying a nice message and that we are hurt or shit like that and that we do love them. But just don't like the situation. So that and it goes back to the other leak, I think. So they will not think we are really against them, you know? Yeah, that's smart. Play the victim. I mean, we are, but like, yeah, act like we still love them and stuff. This is before you respond, Slemmy, because I know there's a lot of points here for you. They're here essentially saying that that second. So Catherine mentioned the first one, but because blank is constantly listening, and then the second part, she's saying, "I'll protect you, and we can get out of this safely." And then they want to pretend. So the reason, Slayman, the reason it seems they want to pretend for the Tates that they love them is so the Tates don't suspect them of them leaving, and then they can escape. So they're faking it. They could be faking it. Because initially it looked like the first, because now it continues into the first leak. But when you go through the first leak, it just makes it seem like they're faking their love, and it's like reverse Loverboy strategy. But when you read through this, it's like the context, it shows that they're faking that they love them potentially because they want to be able to get out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I'll try and answer both of them. So first of all, in terms of because so-and-so is constantly listening, it possibly could be surveillance, but at the same time, it could also be, for example, somebody listening, like another person who lives close to them is listening. You know how like sometimes you got people in the house and you're like, oh, I don't want that person to listen to what I'm saying. So it could quite be that as well, because their surveillance is actually video, it's not voice. So it would be watching rather than listening. So both are possible, but I'm saying the possibilities there, it could be something else. In terms of the second thing, this leak here, which seeps into the other leak, is the second set of leaks, not the first one. And so my thought on those leaks is this: the first set is actually talking about them lying to Dicot and the police, but the second set of leaks is actually them lying to the Tates. So you have both scenarios where they want to win an Oscar and act. The first one to the police is unacceptable. The second one makes sense that they would want to pretend to the Tates. So that's my comments on them. So I still think it's a problematic when they were planning to lie to the Dicot.
But would you agree on this point there that the context here at least puts a possible explanation to why they would act towards the Tates? Would you agree that this could?
Yeah. So in terms of the second set, so if you remember, your leaks were broken. The first set of leaks that we did, it was broken up into a few blocks. So the first block is actually Dicot, and the reason you know it's Dicot is because at the same time, simultaneously, she's talking to her parents, and they're talking, and she says to her parents that Tristan and the Tates aren't around, so they can't be acting to the Tates. But the second set, this one here, it does seem like they were also acting when it comes to the Tates as well, and that explained the movie deal, Netflix, Hulu, and these other things, and being rich and all these things that they were talking about.
But the Hulu and that comes earlier on, it seems like. And then also, so with the Tates, the idea of like act like we still love them seems to be coming from that idea of like, well, if it's to protect themselves, because then they won't suspect anything, they can leave, they can have freedom of movement, they won't be chased. So and the other thing is, she does note, and this is something that was pointed out to me in a comment that somebody sent, was that they stated that they had to book a very early flight and they were going to leave when people are asleep. So they do have some concerns there about, they can't just leave like normal people. Hey, we changed our minds and we want to leave. They feel like they have to leave quietly without anyone being aware, and they are hoping to leave in a way that the Tates won't think that they'll betray them, and that they'll just want to come back at a certain point.
So for me, them comments just show like a lack of logic. Not from you. I'm talking about from the girls. From you, it makes sense, the analysis you're given. But in terms of from the girls, it just shows a lack of logic. Like, it's illogical thinking. So what? At the one hand, they're saying we've got freedom of movement and we've got no issue, and then the other hand, they're saying we've got to leave secretly. All that shows to me is they may be convinced that the girls are going to stop them, or they may not be. But whatever it is, it just shows a contradiction in.
Well, no, they're not locked inside of a house, right? And they still have, like you pointed, they still have their passports. So those kinds of things, they have that freedom. They can physically move, but it doesn't mean that somebody might not come after them, or if they just, they can physically move, right? They're not locked.
No, but she says Tristan's not bothered if I leave. In the other league that we ran, she says Tristan's not bothered. So she doesn't say, "Oh, Tristan doesn't know," or "Tristan trusts me." She's just like, "Oh, he's not even bothered. He's not even." Bothered.
But she could be saying that. She could be saying that for her parents' sake, to make them feel like she's safe by doing this, because they want to call the embassy, as you recall, right? And she doesn't seem to want that to happen.
She says it to Aliona as well. So she says Tristan's not bothered. So the issue is that. For me, all it shows is just illogicalness, contradiction in her own throat.
Let's continue. I'm gonna continue reading actually, because this is more context. This is more context to this discussion. So let me play the victim. I mean, we are okay. So this goes back to the other leak and continues from it. So this is the context. Anyone that saw the first leak and said there's no context. By the way, someone has feedback sound on their end. So if you could mute and then unmute. Let's try Catherine first. Let's try. Okay, no, it's Slyman, not Catherine. Keep yours, Catherine. It's fine. Slyman, it's yours. You have feedback. So unmute when you're not speaking. Whew, so much better. All right. Play the victim. I mean, we are, but act like we still love them and stuff. Okay, so that looked really bad in the first leak, but now it gave context to that they want to act like they love them, just so they don't respond negatively, which we kind of touched on already. Haha. I mean, we are. Wait, what? But maybe just tell them I take off today. Lol, just take off. Cries and laughs. So I don't have to play. And then Aliona laughs. Yeah, didn't we decide on that? Yeah, haha, I completely forgot about it. Silly me. Oops. But yeah, the thing is, it's just that I didn't go live yesterday either. Okay. So they didn't go live a couple of times. So they're worried that they'll ring some alarm bells. That's cam girls. Again, they're cam girls. Mm-hmm. Okay, fuck it. We are leaving tomorrow. But fuck it, yeah, who cares if they get mad? Fuck them. And fuck this place. It's just like getting courage to leave. I just don't want them to get suspicious. It'll only be that way if we let them believe that. We're fine. Don't even stress it, babe. Pretend it's another day. You're just tired. That does show concern. If they're leaving, like, hey, let's leave tomorrow. Yeah, sure. They wouldn't be worried about them worrying them and them freaking. Like, none of my employees would want to be freaking out about leaving their house, leaving a country, or leaving their office, or even leaving my company. You're muted,
I hope
Slyman.
so.
You're muted, Slyman.
No. So it's look. This is the issue, you see, because everyone's trying to paint this as a victim thing. We're not looking at how society really works. If your employee didn't turn up, if, for example, now you were setting up this space, let's say you have your space with Hunter Biden, and then someone doesn't turn up, and they don't set it up, you're gonna be vexed, isn't it? You're not going to be like, oh, it's cool, bro. Don't worry. Don't mess up my 2 streams in 2 days in a row. It's not going to be a problem. Every employer expects the employee to turn up and do their work. Even if it's a business relationship, they expect the business partner to turn up. Even this stream, I expected you to turn up because I
Holy
gave
shit. Okay. But listen, I'm going to read this out. This is a big one. You ready, Slime Man?
Yeah.
All right, bro. I don't know if you read this one. It's going to be a big one for you. All Tate fans, this could be a big one. Maybe Slime Man kind of diminishes the importance of this. I'm going to read it out. This is Emma. This is in the third slide of the 4. There's 4 of them. This is in the third one. Slime Man, if you could mute, bro. And then unmute, because just a feedback. All right, I'm going to read it out what Emma said. Oh, my God. I realized within the past 12 hours, we realized this is trafficking. We lived in the mentality of trafficked women, believed we had the US Embassy and Marines and the FBI about to break into this house, took selfies with bread, and had a few panic attacks. And now we are sitting here smiling and acting normal. Let me read it again. Maybe I misunderstood the first time. I'm going to read it again. So, oh my God, I realized within the past 12 hours, we realized this is trafficking. We lived in the mentality of trafficked women. So they're saying that they've realized this trafficking and they've had the mentality of trafficked women. What do you think, Slime Man, of what I just read?
I mean, it's going to sound like I'm trying to diminish it, so I feel a bit
No,
awkward.
it's fine. No. It's not as big as I initially thought when I read it again. But
it's nothing. Like, basically, she's like, oh, I'm being trafficked. Oh, I'm being this, I'm being that. Look, the problem I've got is I know a lot of information you guys don't know. This is not surprising for me. This is not shocking at all.
You're just saying she's done this before, and you've got proof.
I mean,
you said it.
This is just not surprising for me. This is like a woman who basically her word can't be trusted. She and to be honest, once the revelations come out, I think she's completely unreliable and to be honest, a scary person. So her saying is irrelevant. Her saying she's a trafficking woman doesn't prove. And separate to that, someone saying the trafficking, they're a victim of trafficking doesn't prove trafficking. You have to prove it.
Catherine, once I read it again, I think it kind of, I read it first time, I got shocked, and I read it again, it doesn't look that serious. What do you think, Catherine?
I guess my question is to Suleiman, like, I mean, based on what you know now of her, do you think that she believes that to be true when she's writing it? You don't?
Impossible.
Oh, interesting. Okay, that's interesting.
What does Slime Man know? When is it going to come out? When is this?
Yeah.
When are they going to come out, my friend?
So that's interesting. So I mean, we have an absence of that information, so it's hard, like, to go off. So if I had to just go based on these messages and not the information that Suleiman won't share with us, I'm so sad. Oh, I won't get an Oscar for this performance.
I know, Catherine. I know the information.
You need to email.
Catherine, he has evidence. He has proof of Emma. Maybe the other girl, but I think it's Emma. He just has proof of her having that behavior before. He already posted a screenshot. He probably dug into it further and saw behavior by Emma having done this before, and kind of in line with his behavior, dismisses all the allegations she's made and corroborates the explanation he made about her making up the whole story.
Well, that makes it really tough. That makes it really tough, right?
I
should discard what I'm saying because you guys aren't privy to that, and I could be chatting nonsense as well. But specifically, when it comes to this specific statement, all it is her statement saying she's a victim of trafficking. It doesn't prove trafficking.
No, so let's go based on her assumption that this is right, because people think that they are victims all the time, and that doesn't necessarily make them victims. So, and again, I do hesitate that I don't want to live in a world where somebody just deciding one day that they're a victim, suddenly person goes to jail for that. Like that's not ethically where I stand. But looking at that, just in terms of whether, I do think that these messages do provide a different context than when they're taken out of out of context in the way they were presented. And I also like do challenge the fact or question the fact that whoever, you know, leaked it, or whatever word you want to use for how they were shared, they did cut off a lot, and it was done to build a particular narrative and to suit a particular narrative. So, you know, did they realize that that's how they felt? Maybe. Also, you know, when people get together and they start changing stories, I've even felt this myself, like, you know, where people can kind of start convincing you to look at things a little bit differently, and maybe you haven't looked that way. But I will say that based on this, they are trying to avoid being sort of caught, you know, found out. And you said that, you know, you can't just not show up to a job, of course. But this is different. Like in Mario's situation, his employees wouldn't just like not show up, right? They would tell him, hey, I'm leaving, and that would be fine. Here's a severance package, or hopefully, or like, or, you know, I'll write you a reference letter, whatever, right? This is not the same situation. So at least in their eyes, again, in their eyes, that's not the same situation. And I do think that's pretty clear from these text messages.
So just to comment on that, because what she says is, I meant to stream today or something like that, and then she's like, no, I didn't stream even the day before. So, and then she's like, oh, he's gonna get angry, and they're like, F them. So that isn't about running away or being scared. That's just a work situation. And the problem is that you got a scenario, and this is the issue, you see, because you have people in the United States, in the United Kingdom, living in poverty land, maybe having 2-3 jobs a day. And basically, you got people who are not turning them to work, or basically having to post whatever it is on, and that's been given equivalence and made it look like that's horrendous work conditions, when in reality it isn't. Now you can maybe argue, one may try and argue when later on, let's say it does come out that they were working a lot of hours or they weren't. That's about work conditions. We can talk about that. But in terms of this specifically, they're literally like, look, I didn't turn up to work yesterday, so what? And I'm not going to turn up today. F them.
Oh, I just took that to mean more like they have to leave soon, because at a certain point, because they're not performing the job that they're have some obligation to perform, they'll suspect them and they'll have some kind of repercussions. At the very least, he'll get angry, right? Like, I'm not saying repercussions as in they'll be beaten or something like that, but they'll take notice of that, and the attention will be on them. And so it's better for them to leave sooner than later. That's all I'm reading out of this personally.
Yeah, and so my point, I agree with you. And my point is just this: that if someone doesn't turn up to work, they have repercussions. I know what you're saying, that basically they've got repercussions, but then they're not having to deal with them repercussions because they're going to leave. That's true. But that would be for anywhere.
Yeah, I wasn't taking those repercussions as being anything like necessarily over dramatic, like as far as I was reading in this context. Yeah. I think it was more that they're going to get mad, like your boss would get mad too. But I read it more, attention will be put on them, and therefore it can hurt their plan to leave quietly. So I that's really how I'm just reading it.
By the way, Nick's message, Nick's videos getting traction. His video in Ohio. I was just going through it,
wow.
but I went through it. I'm impressed by this guy. I want to go through the thread. I went through the rest of the thread. Yeah. I went through the rest of the thread, Catherine. Nothing left in it. They're just talking about someone taking their cigarettes and stuff. In brief, my conclusion. I think you guys gave a kind of a good summary there. Yeah, look, this gave the full context, and it definitely, and this is without the findings that you apparently have, Slayman, that I trust are pretty, the claims that you made, what you've said about them is accurate. I think this, in my opinion, almost invalidates any claims those girls are making. I'm not saying what they're making is not true, but there's such serious claims that such discussions really laid doubt on the whole story. And again, this is important because the allegations are so serious. Even though they could be true, there's just too many questions now being asked. There's just too many points being made. So unless more context could be added, I think these allegations could definitely be questioned now. And I think this is probably the biggest leak we've seen in support of Tate to date. So yeah, we'll see how it develops. And I'm sure the prosecutors already leaked something earlier today or yesterday to kind of counter this. and that leak didn't do its job, in my opinion. I think it made more points that they weren't being trafficked. There are questions there as well. I think there is some truth to what they're saying. I think there's some pressure. I think there's some level of monitoring, and I think there's some level of control. But is it trafficking? Um, from this, it just doesn't look to be trafficking. It just looks like, not the way I would manage my business, not the way I would treat people. That's my conclusion. Catherine, what are your thoughts before we finalize it with Clayman?
Yeah, I mean, I think when I had originally read the thread, like I said, I was like, completely thought that it did, and at least with these two, I was in agreement with Suleiman, actually. Then I started looking, there were some inconsistencies, but looking at everything, I think there's nuance to it. I think I have questions. I do think that in terms of evidence and having, I do think there needs to be a very high standard to convict somebody of such serious allegations. So I completely agree with that. And we do have a certain level of trial in the court of public opinion, and I think that's a very, very, very dangerous thing. So I don't want to dismiss, because there's arguments that are sort of defending Tate in the court of public opinion. I also don't want to completely dismiss everything that is, let's say, I hate the stands pro Tate on Tate, because I think it takes away all nuance. I don't think that we really should be looking at things through that lens. We should be trying to understand what the facts of the case are ultimately, and whatever that leads, that's where it leads. And if they're innocent, great. They're innocent, and then they were unfairly charged and held. I do find it problematic that they're held without charges being laid on them for so long. But that is part of the Romanian court system, so that's a bigger issue than that. But it definitely casts a lot of doubt for me. So more doubt that I previously had. But I'm also not seeing every piece of evidence, and I think it also reveals, like the pieces that came in later, I think it reveals how important it is to see things in the full context as much as possible, and how sometimes we do miss things and jump to conclusions. So I don't know. Those are my incoherent thoughts in the moment.
Slayman, final thoughts. I know you do a pretty good job with your thread, covering all this, and maybe you could summarize your thread and your thoughts. And I want you to kind of touch on, because you've done an incredible job in the thread, kind of pointing out the revelations as a way to dismiss all the allegations and how groundbreaking they are. I want you to touch on the other side of the points, that there are the indications that kind of support the other argument, even though that me and Catherine have already done that. Maybe you can touch on those as well as you counter them.
Yeah, of course, and I think I agree with Catherine's conclusion as well. It was very fair and balanced. In my view, when it came to the first leak, you can look at the first leak as three separate parts. The first part shows that the women were basically conspiring to lie to the police and Dicot, so that's very concerning. The second part was them conspiring to act and lie to the Tates. That's fair enough. And then you got the third part, which is between the mother and the daughter, and again that gives us cause for concern. When you look at it, and we're just looking at it from the sphere of trafficking, for me this casts huge amounts of doubts. First of all, what Catherine said is she's right. It casts doubt, and remember, when you're trying to convict someone, it has to be beyond reasonable doubt. And I would say this just cast reasonable doubt. Now, there may be other evidence, but we're only basing it on the evidence that we're able to see. In terms of the evidence that we've seen and the leaks that have been given from the prosecutor, because nearly all leaks have been given by the prosecutor except yesterday's one, you got a scenario where it just defeats the human trafficking allegations. So as an example, if she's got freedom of movement, if she's got freedom of going anywhere she wants, Tristan's not bothered that she can leave, she's got a passport, they've got passports, that dispels the entire trafficking argument. And so if it dispels the trafficking argument, then what else is there? The judges already said that currently the information they have does not even meet the requirements to prosecute. And so we're coming back to it from a legal point of view. There's nothing, and that's been my stance from right from the beginning. Legally, there's nothing. Ethically or morally,
Let me hold on, Simon. I've just got a gentleman called Joa. He's always watching the space and sending me so much information. Joa Santos, shout out to you. Trafficking, legal definition. So this is legal definition of human trafficking. I'm just gonna read it out. It involves the exploitation of people through force, coercion, threat, and deception, and includes human rights abuses such as debt bondage, deprivation of liberty, and lack of control over freedom and labor. So it has to be through force, coercion, threat, and deception. Was there deception? Possibly in the early stages of the guy's thing.
Mario, it doesn't work like that. So you're right, that's it. But then that gets mapped onto whether there was force, fraud, or basically not a liberty to move. So, and it has to meet all three requirements. So just force, maybe you can argue, it looks like it could go either way. But when it comes to move financially, the documents clearly show, the other leaked documents, that the women were getting more money than Tate was. They were getting 100% more. So it doesn't meet that requirement. And the third one, in terms of liberty of movement, it doesn't meet that requirement. So it doesn't meet the requirement of trafficking overall. You can make it meet one condition, possibly. Like the first one, maybe you can argue for and against, but the other two, it doesn't.
No, I agree.
I would say that legally, like if I was on a jury right now, and this was the only evidence that was presented, right? There's nothing else. Now I'm assuming there's other things, but if this was all there is, I would have to say there is reasonable doubt, and so there's not. I couldn't, rightfully sort of convict. If there's more, that's a different situation. And if there's more to this particular side of the case, that's a different situation.
And I want to, and everyone in the comments, let us know what you think from what you've seen now. I would say, I would agree with Catherine. I'd want to add one more thing, is that these are leaks in how many pages? 16,000 page document that the prosecutors have. So we've barely seen 0.whatever% of all the documents of evidence that they have, or supposed evidence. So I just want to make that clear, and there could be significant more evidence.
It could be there's more evidence, and we have to wait for that. And then there's evidence that's not been included, like the CCTV footage and so on and so forth. But in terms of that evidence, from what I've garnered, the complaint from the other side is that most of that was irrelevant documents to bombard them so that they couldn't get to the evidence in time for the hearings.
We'll see. I think the courts will determine that. And we've done a pretty good job of covering it pretty objectively. I was actually impressed in this discussion. We've gone through all the leaks. If you missed it, if you came in late, we're going to end the recording now and you can review it in a bit. But we've gone through all the leaks we've had. Sliman's doing great threads. I haven't done any threads on them yet. Probably should. And we'll cover that. If there's more leaks, we'll do another live reaction like this. We didn't do a space. We didn't think it was major enough for a space. I really contemplated it. But if we get more leaks and more information, we'll do a space, and you can bet your hat that Sliman and hopefully Catherine can be there with us. All right. Thank you, everyone. Catherine, Sliman, really appreciate you jumping on. Sliman, you're muted, saying thank you. Bye, guys.
Bye. Thanks.